Hi there everyone, John here from e3coach.com. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. So what we're looking at today is trying to get people to understand the physiology and the understanding of how to train your base or your aerobic fitness, which is the underpinning of all endurance athletes. And as with so many different things within the endurance world, a great way to demonstrate it is the utilization of a hill. It always exaggerates things and so it makes it easier and quicker for us to understand. Okay, so first principle is don't be afraid to go slow. Slowing things down is actually in essence going to speed you up. Okay, always sounds counterintuitive and people really struggle to get their head around this process, but believe me, it's the way to do it. 80 to 90% of top athletes, elite athletes, will be working 80 to 90% of the time in the aerobic state. Okay, this is the functional endurance phase for all athletes. Yes, we can't neglect the anaerobic, the high end, we all need it, and it definitely have its benefits as well. But what I want to go over today is how we can actually learn to control and progress visually, seeing in data and in feeling within ourselves how we can actually improve our aerobic fitness. So as I said, we're going to use a hill. Okay, it's not too crazy, it's reasonably long, but what we're doing is we're not allowing our heart rate to go out of my base training zone. So fortunate for me, I've been through many lab tests and conducted many lab tests, so I'm fully aware of where my thresholds are, and so it makes it easy for me to define my zones. But there are obviously calculations that you can do. They're not as accurate, but they will help as a guide. So what I do is on the hill, I'll start warming up and I'll get to the hill, and as soon as my heart rate starts to push out of my aerobic zone, I back it off, and that can mean walking or just slowing my pace, but not allowing myself to push beyond it into what's kind of theoretically known as a no man's land of training. Okay, or you're pushing too hard and you go into the anaerobic state, which again is not very sustainable when it comes to endurance. So what I recommend for you as an athlete is to pick a route. It doesn't have to be particularly long, but it has a nice climb in it that you know well, and you set yourself this process for 4 weeks. You say, I'm going to lock in to this base aerobic training, and the way that you're going to gauge that is, to start with, I suspect on your route you'll probably have to walk a large part of the hill that you've chosen to stay within your zone. Now if you stay training like that for 4 weeks on all of your other runs, locking into your aerobic, your base training zone, by the time you come back to the 4th or maybe 5th time of going up your hill, okay, in 4 weeks time, I guarantee there'll be less walking for a lower heart rate, which means an increased speed up that hill. As I've mentioned before, the human body is super intelligent, but it likes to learn patterns. So you start to give it this consistency in what you're trying to achieve, it will latch a hold of that, and then it will utilize it, and you'll progress with your fitness. But if you start to bounce around with all your training, it's going to get lost, the body's going to get confused, it's not going to know what you're trying to achieve, and it'll plateau, may even drop. So don't be afraid to slow down to speed up, okay? Now, I'm not saying by any means this is an easy method to train, especially when it comes to the psychology. You're going to come up against many things mentally that are going to want to make you push beyond where you should be pushing. That could be seeing somebody in front of you, as I call it, the grey joggy bottom syndrome. Someone out for a bimble that you're thinking, wow, I should be running faster than them, and you'll then push and you'll overtake them, and then you'll see another and you'll do the same again. You have to let that go. That's not your race, that's not what you're trying to progress. You're trying to progress you. So you're focusing on you and what's going on with you physiologically. So let that go. Other things will be, you're just not getting the same sensory feedback from your run because you're not pushing as hard. So the chemicals being released that stimulate you aren't necessarily there. Again, this is not a negative, okay? It's only a negative if you respond and then you push out of the training zone and then all your effort's lost, okay? So it's about being very, very disciplined. Most of the elite, world-class even athletes that I work with are some of the most disciplined and controlled people that I know when it comes to their training. I have no comment when it comes to personal lives. But yeah, when it comes to their training, they are so disciplined and so focused that they actually achieve their goals within the time frame, because they lock onto that training pattern, the positive training pattern. Their body learns what it is they're trying to do, and thus what was a 10-minute climb for 150 beats a minute becomes a 7-minute climb for 150 beats a minute. It's pretty simple, and the great thing is for us as athletes is we like to see and feel these results. To start with, it's very much like, is this working? I'm just going slow, this doesn't make any sense. And you'll have these battles. But once you actually hit that point where you get your climb done, and it may be a minute quicker for the same effort, then you have something to connect to. As the athlete, you've kind of latched on and you're kind of like, okay, I see where this is going. And as soon as you have that click, that connection, it becomes a real positive journey. You lock onto it more, and so the progress happens even more. So yeah, it's a case of being super, super disciplined, super controlled, understanding where your aerobic and your base training zones are for you, and then locking into that and progressing it, and not being afraid to slow things down to then in the long term give you a lot more speed, a lot more energy, a lot more endurance. It's just a positive, but it's very difficult for a lot of people to latch hold of and progress to. Okay, well, I hope that helps. I hope that breaks things down a little bit about how you need to lock onto this training zone and how you can actually improve your aerobic fitness, which, as I mentioned before, takes up around 80% of most elite endurance athletes' training. So it's an area that's not neglected. Yes, they go super fast because yes, they are super efficient. Okay, cheers. Don't forget to follow the YouTube channel, and also check me out on Instagram for John_endurance_coach, and follow my stories there. Cheers.